Trick-or-treating in my childhood was quite different from what most people experience today, or even back then. We didn't go door to door on foot because we lived far out in the countryside, on a big ridge with houses spread up far apart, so we had to drive from one house to another. While most people in our area were somewhat religious and still gave out candy on Halloween, a few were very religious and considered it a devil's holiday. These folks would put signs on the mailboxes or turn off their lights, and we would skip those houses. In my early trick-or-treating years, my parents drove us around, sometimes with a few cousins. This continued until I was 12, when my older brother Ray got his driving's license and an old pickup truck. He didn't seem thrilled about driving us, probably wanting to spend time with his friends later. He decided to speed up the trick-or-treating to have time for himself. We, a group of kids, including my younger brother, rode in the back of the truck, making the Halloween experience even spookier. We tried to scare each other, but it was all good fun. Most houses with lights on welcomed us with decorations and people sitting on their porches. However, if the lights were off, we would pass them by. Ray got tired of our attitude and decided to play pranks by pretending to turn into the dark driveways. We weren't keen on getting into a confrontation, so we resisted reacting. When we caught onto his antics, he decided to take it up a notch. One night, he actually turned into a dark driveway and we began to get uneasy. His friend made spooky noises and I hoped the homeowners either weren't home or wouldn't mind. Ray stopped a few car lengths away and told us to get out and approach the house. I tried to stop the prank, but Ray insisted we get out, threatening not to leave. I crept towards the house, fearing cranky homeowners on Halloween. When I reached the porch, a light turned on and an angry man with a knife yelled at me to leave. I rushed back to the truck, but Ray drove away, leaving me to run and catch up. He teased me but eventually led me back into the truck. We left the house and I thought I saw the man following me briefly. Later, my traumatized younger brother told our father what had happened, leading to Ray losing truck privileges for a very long time. This is a story from when I was around 13 years old, living in a rural area. On Halloween, we had to drive to different neighborhoods for trick-or-treating. We didn't live in a town, but out in the countryside with hills, dirt roads, no sidewalks, so we had to drive from house to house. However, when we reached town, we could walk from house to house like typical trick-or-treaters. My family was not well off, and I really wanted to dress up as Freddy that year. Despite our financial limitations, I was content with a Night Stalker glove, a simple black cloth glove with a flimsy blade. In town, we kids were allowed to go to house on our own, which we enjoyed the most. I, being the oldest, assumed a protective role, though I didn't expect it to be relevant. As we approached one house, we encountered some older kids on the porch, possibly around 17 years old, and they didn't seem very friendly. They made mean remarks about our costumes, particularly mocking my cheap Freddy outfit and glove. They expressed a preference for Jason over Freddy, reflecting the rivalry between the two horror franchises in the late 80s. I felt uncomfortable but didn't show it to ensure the younger kids had a pleasant Halloween. After getting our candy to the older boys told me to leave their yard, objecting to my Freddy costume. I found it all silly but decided to walk away. The younger kids seemed unaware of the situation, as they didn't watch scary movies, only caring about getting candy. I was relieved to escape as quickly as possible. However, the harassment continued. When we returned to the other side of the street, the older boys followed us, making more nasty comments, further spoiling the trick-or-treat experience. Later, on a different street, I heard a noise from behind the house. I turned to see someone in a hockey mask with a real machete coming towards me. The kid screamed and ran, but I tripped, causing the masked person to stumble over me. He ended up on top of me screaming. I managed to free myself and realized he was screaming because he had fallen on his own machete. Not knowing what to do, I ran to catch up with other kids, taking them back to the car. We left without informing my parents of the incident, only mentioning that we were only being bullied, as if I didn't know how to explain the rest. Fortunately, I never faced any consequences from this incident. We were all in costumes, and the person with the machete probably didn't want any further investigation. I hope this experience taught him a lesson and prevented him from doing something like that again. I grew up in a quiet, rural home in the hills, far from any of the neighbours. One Halloween night, as I outgrew trick-or-treating, I decided to stay home alone in the dark. I noticed unusual moving lights in the yard from my front room. Curiosity drove into me to investigate without turning on the lights. Armed with a rifle, I ventured outside, warning potential intruders. 3 people in the possession of a jack-o'-lantern with a devil carrion quickly fled. Afterward, I extinguished the pumpkin's fire and shot it. Disturbed by the devilish design, I never learned their intentions, but their presence on Halloween night was unsettling. I was very creeped out after that.